And growing concern tonight after Kent County experienced its highest daily increase for positive COVID-19 cases.
Angeline McCall spoke with the health department about how they're coping with this uptick and a warning now from hospitals as well. Angeline.
Derek, Janice, 469 positive cases have been confirmed today, and while that number does account for 2 days due to the weekend, it's still the highest Monday numbers coming in that we've seen since the start of the pandemic.
Kind of just says that we have widespread transmission right now within our community, and these numbers show that.
Kent County epidemiologist Brian Hartle is calling the new numbers concerning, with COVID cases now rising steadily for over 14 days.
I would not say that we're in a position now to foresee our numbers going down. I think they're going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future.
In Kent County, more than 6% of COVID tests are coming back positive, making it more time-consuming for contact tracing when someone does test positive, with staff 2 to 3 days behind to reach out to others potentially exposed to the virus.
Right now, obviously, with the numbers that we're seeing on a daily basis, our staff is strapped. We have a hard time, getting to cases in a timely manner. So we just want people to know that you might not be, getting a phone call from the Kent County Health Department, for a while, after those positive cases are identified.
Local hospitals are reporting even higher numbers too, with Spectrum Health hitting a record number of patients ever hospitalized for COVID-19, with 156 currently being treated.
So we actually hit a record late last week, and we're now 80% higher than the record that we hit late last weekend in the spring.
Health experts say the spike not only comes from the cold weather, but also gatherings and overall fatigue towards ongoing preventative measures.
I know it's been a long haul here with wearing masks and distancing and everything like that, but really now is the most important time to adhere to those precautions, make sure that you're doing that so we can really try to stop this transmission.
The Kent County Health Department says they recently launched a texting system to notify folks if they are indeed positive. This just to keep up with the demand of this extra workload with all these cases coming in. So if you do receive a text from the health department, don't immediately write it off as a phishing tactic or illegitimate. It will also have a link with more information as well as a survey. Live in the newsroom, Angeline McCall, Fox 17 News.
Blaine, thank you for that. Officials meanwhile confirming an outbreak at the Calhoun County Jail. 24 inmates have tested positive there, as well as a couple of staff members. A county spokesperson tells Fox 17 the outbreak is contained to a pod where immigrants are held under the authority of Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Of the 24 inmates, 2 are experiencing mild symptoms and are receiving medical treatment at the jail, working now with the county health department to confirm that the 2 staff members contracted the virus from the inmates and say there are strict cleaning protocols in place.
Governor of Louisiana John Bel Edwards issuing an emergency declaration today, 2 days ahead of the forecasted arrival of Hurricane Zeta. It is the 27th named storm of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, and it is set to hit Louisiana head on. The state is still recovering from 2 other storms this year, Laura and Delta.
It has been a bad year for them, bad year for many people across the world for that matter. Anthony Dommel standing by with the chilly forecast, but overall, we've seen worse, I guess.
Hey, we've got a really, I'd say, tranquil weather forecast here, Derek, in West Michigan. We can't complain. Yeah, it's been chilly. Really going back the past several weeks at times, but we've had some milder spells in there. We are definitely in a cooler type of a pattern at this point, and it looks to remain throughout the remainder of the work week. Interesting, though, and I'll talk more about Hurricane Zeta in the main weather segment. A hurricane perhaps making landfall late on Wednesday in Louisiana. Meanwhile, we've got winter storm warnings and ice storm warnings out just a state to the west in Texas, right on through the day on Wednesday. So clashing, obviously, of the air masses, and very interesting weather happening down to the south, but not so much around here. It's pretty quiet. Winds are light. Mostly cloudy skies are overhead. Daytime highs today, Derek and Janice, in the lower 40s, and it felt like winter out there, certainly, with no sunshine, and those clouds just had the appearance of a November or December type of a day here in late October. Readings right now upper 30s, but not really going anywhere real fast because the clouds are overhead, tending to insulate that atmosphere. And I think if anything, there's going to be more clouds than the model's holding I would suspect in the overnight, so probably not dropping off as much as the models are suggesting. And they are saying that we would get down to about 30 to 32 tonight, thinking more like 33 to 35 to begin the day on Tuesday. Did step outside recently and noticed just a touch of mist in the air. So, yeah, you may come across that. Say you're going out to the gas station here late, may have a little bit of dampness on your windshield. Perhaps you may run into a flurry, but clearly with that showing on the radar screen, nothing significant is anticipated. The southwest flow out ahead of this area of low pressure across New Mexico. You get a counterclockwise flow around low pressure such that it is sending winds from the southwest to the northeast into our vicinity, dragging in clouds for us, but just not a whole lot of moisture for us. These are the winter storm warnings in the pink colors. These purple colors are where the ice storm warnings are, and those stretch from Texas into Oklahoma. That could be rather significant. A couple inches of freezing rain and sleet anticipated for those folks. These are snow accumulations stretching down into New Mexico. Could be 6 to 10, maybe 12 inches in spots. So quite the storm, but again, won't be affecting us. That stays south of us with what will be rain across Indiana and Ohio through Thursday and Friday. I'll have more on that system to come. We'll talk about Hurricane Zeta. It's possible they could get to a Category 2 in the southern Gulf. I'll have more on that coming up.
For that, Anthony, thank you. Meanwhile, federal prosecutors asking a judge for 40 additional days to seek a grand jury indictment in the alleged scheme to kidnap Governor Whitmer. Now, these are 13 men so far accused of having some sort of role in the foiled plan. 6 of them also being charged in federal court. Prosecutors say they're sorting through evidence, including explosive device components. Those components and firearms could lead to additional charges. Prosecutors say defense attorneys have raised no objections to an extension.
Grand Rapids Christian Elementary was locked down this morning after a staffer saw a man with a gun near their building. We're told that suspect was seen hiding behind a dumpster outside the Evergreen campus. Officers arrived on scene within 1 minute of that call, but that suspect was already gone. He was last seen around 11:30 walking north on Sylvan from Griggs Street, wearing a red sweatshirt with headphones around his neck. The district says there was no active threat to students during the lockdown. If you know anything, you're asked to call GRPD. Candlelight Vigil tonight for a victim of one of Grand Rapids' recent homicides. Today would have been Quavon Lee's 24th birthday, but his life ended when 30-year-old Juan Garcia opened fire, killing Lee and Jayana Braden while they were sitting in a vehicle. He is now facing 2 counts of open murder, but tonight it was all about celebrating Quavon's life and how much he meant to those who knew him.
A woman from Allegan County, meanwhile, sharing her family's story tonight after finding themselves in the middle of Colorado's second largest wildfire ever just last week.
Everyone is okay now, but as our Marisa Oberly shows us, their vacation turned into them witnessing a natural disaster.
A pitch black sky illuminated only by police lights in the glow of flames peeking through the mountains. This was Grand Lake, Colorado last Wednesday evening. The town under mandatory evacuation orders as the East Troublesome fire ripped through the area.
It was just gut-wrenching.
Behind the camera is Jennifer Bodine. She lives in Otsego with her husband and 2 children now, but grew up in Grand County where the fire started.
You're close to your neighbors. You're close to everybody in the town. My parents both owned businesses out there for years.
They flew out to visit her parents on the 16th, just 2 days after officials say this all began. Jennifer says they saw and smelled smoke, but the fire impacted just a few thousand acres at the time, leaving little concern. That changed Wednesday as winds picked up, though. Jennifer's family evacuated twice. East Troublesome is now the state's second largest fire ever, burning more than 192,000 acres in just 15% contained.
It was a vacation to visit, and then kind of turned into witnessing a natural disaster and watching the place that I grew up burn down. I went into my bedroom, my childhood bedroom, and just sat there by myself and cried for quite a while.
Her parents are back home now. Jennifer is thankful for that, considering many others will likely not be able to say the same. Sunday, the local fire department announced 7 first responders lost their houses to the flames. Jennifer hopes people in West Michigan consider helping out.
This is, an amazing community, and these are amazing people.
Saying while many miles separate the 2 places, the mindsets of those living in both do not.
If tables were turned and something like this happened, my community would help somebody else in need as well.
In Otsego, Marisa Oberly, Fox 17 News.
And the Red Cross of Michigan is helping with the relief efforts. Since July, they have sent 64 volunteers with those wildfires out west. Currently, there are none in Colorado, but the agency says that could change.
Michigan Secretary of State issued a ban against carrying a firearm inside of a polling place, but some county prosecutors saying they won't prosecute anyone who violates that.
I've been here 25 years, and we haven't had any election issues, to be honest, and I'm not expecting any.
Still to come, the letter sent to law enforcement when the ban was announced.
In this whole rethinking of the office right now, they're going to hold off. And this is the local industry that I suppose I'm most concerned about.
Still to come tonight, with so many still dealing with unemployment, one economic expert telling us what job market is taking off already and which is still trying to recover.
And just a reminder that you can get more news and weather from Fox 17 by downloading our app on your streaming device like Fire TV and Roku. We'll be right back after this.
Well, after Michigan Secretary of State issued a ban on open carrying firearms into polling places, a lawsuit was filed against it.
And now the Kent County Prosecutor's Office has come out and said they will not be prosecuting people for not following that ban. Our Michael Martin has the story.
I've been here 25 years, and we haven't had any election issues, to be honest, and I'm not expecting any.
On October 16th, Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson issued a ban on the open carry of firearms inside or within 100 feet of polling locations on Election Day.
This got a lot of attention and a lot of publicity, but I want to kind of bring it back to, hey, there's a lot laws on the books already that cover intimidating behavior, and I wanted to focus on that because there's a lot more teeth to those penalties.
Kent County Prosecutor Chris Becker issued this letter to law enforcement within the county after the ban was announced.
We're really focusing on the voter intimidation aspect. We're going to leave that alone in terms of the Secretary of State's order, because I think there is some issue. So taking it back to, let's stick with the stuff we can do and we know we have good legal basis for.
Saying that his office will be focusing on behavior that constitutes voter intimidation and not on people simply choosing to open carry while voting.
Now, a weapon doesn't necessarily have to be in place for some sort of voter intimidation to take place. So it's a much broader thing than just somebody carrying a gun in, which may not be intimidation.
The Secretary of State is currently facing a lawsuit over the ban. Several firearm activist groups argue that in doing so, she has overstepped her authority. The courts are expected to issue a decision in the case prior to Election Day. For those voting in Kent County, Becker suggests,
don't go there trying to make a point. It's people are ready to do something. We're going to be active and engaged, and just go vote as you normally do and just leave it at that.
That was Michael Martin reporting. Fox 17 did reach out to both the Secretary of State and the Attorney General's office. Both declined to comment because of the pending litigation. We will, of course, bring you updates when the court issues a decision one way or the other. Governor Whitmer was in West Michigan today, making a last-minute push for congressional candidate Hillary Scholten and the Biden-Harris ticket. Scholten is running against Peter Meyer for the seat left open by Republican-turned-independent Justin Amash. On Saturday, Michigan set a new record for COVID cases, and the governor took some questions about that after the event, saying it may be difficult to work with the GOP-led legislature who, by and large, opposes a mask mandate. Governor also said that she'd work with the Biden administration from day one on new safety measures in Michigan if he is elected. But first, Biden needs to win, and though polls show a lead in Michigan, the governor said she remembered a similar lead that Hillary Clinton had back in 2016 when Trump barely won the state.
They know how important Michigan is. And while the polls look good, no one is going to rest until this election is totally over, and that's why we're going to work so hard up until the close of polls on Election Day.
And this, of course, all is the backdrop of a presidential visit tomorrow. President Trump will be in Lansing for a rally on Tuesday afternoon. Stay with Fox 17 for full coverage of that event.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump Jr., the president's oldest son, campaigning for his dad today in Macomb County at a Make America Great Again rally. More than 300 supporters inside the Michigan Star Sports Center, where he talked for 20 minutes, criticizing Hunter Biden's business in Ukraine and accused Joe Biden of selling out America during his vice presidency. Macomb is Michigan's third most populous county, which went for Donald Trump at 5% compared to 5% compared to 42% over Hillary Clinton 4 years ago. This year, it could be just as close. Still to come, the pandemic affecting all different aspects of our economy.
The important fact, of course, is that the industrial factor of our economy has a very long supply chain associated to it.
A look at how it's been impacting two of West Michigan's biggest industries and how experts are using decades of history for comparison.
Janice, we got winter storm warnings and ice storm warnings across West Texas for the next 48 hours. And by that point, just thereafter, there's going to be a hurricane lifting northward into Louisiana. So the whole spectrum of weather potpourri. I will get to it in the full forecast that's coming up.
While unemployment is still very high, one man knows exactly what is happening to the local job market, specifically in our two biggest industries.
In this rebound report, he says one's trending up while the other is going to be a little bit slower.
Brian Long of Grand Valley State University is part of a long-running survey of the West Michigan industrial market.
The survey itself is now over 41 years old.
Wow.
So I've got data going back quite a few recessions now where I've looked at these ups and downs that have happened.
His most recent survey covered the local market at the 6th-month mark of the pandemic in mid to late September.
The important fact, of course, is that the industrial factor of our economy has a very long supply chain associated to it.
His survey shows that some businesses could and would be doing better if their supplies were up to speed, like the automotive industry.
Car dealers are hollering about this. They say we could sell more cars, but you're not shipping them to us. And they come back and say, of course, unfortunately, our supply chain has gotten hung up someplace and we're working on it. But for right now, we have a problem.
In fact, Long says some are willing to lower their profit margins if it means keeping their products moving, which is actually good news locally.
There's companies that have said, hey, instead of saving that 1 or 2 cents per unit buying it halfway around the world, maybe we'll pay an extra penny or two and have it made here locally where we can keep track of the supply chain. That, of course, is going to be of benefit, particularly to our automotive-based companies on the west side of the state.
The second big industry in West Michigan is furniture. It's running into a separate problem, which Long says is more specifically related to COVID.
We are redefining the office, and there's going to be people that are going to be primarily working from home. They have started working from home, and they are happy working from home, and they are actually more productive working at home.
Long says businesses aren't buying as much office furniture as they wonder what their offices will look like going forward.
In this whole rethinking of the office right now, they're going to hold off. And this is the local industry that I suppose I'm most concerned about. How quickly can they turn the corner and get into this new mode? Every business has to reinvent itself periodically and update itself and start doing something different. And this has been, of course, the case with the office furniture business from the very beginning.
According to Long, the initial bounce our economy saw in the summer was in part credited what economists call pent-up demand. And while things are still looking up, we may be leveling off a bit.
And we have a myriad of miscellaneous industries in the West Michigan area, and all of those industries, of course, have to a certain extent come back once again as the economy has continued to reopen. What has happened, of course, is particularly at the national level, our numbers aren't as strong as they were the month before. And I have to say that was true of our local survey as well. We're still looking at positive numbers, but that initial bounce